I'm back again with a follow-up to yesterday's video. Because I got a lot of feedback, both publicly and privately. I got a lot of feedback on yesterday's video. Most of it was positive feedback. People, basically co-signing with a lot of stuff I said. But on the flip side, I had some people, some of you all, man. And it wasn't just exclusively haters and critics or skeptics and doubters. I had at least a couple people who are like YouTube subscribers of mine. I don't think they were Patreon subscribers, but YouTube subscribers of mine trying to debate me on something I said. I'll get to that in a second. In case you're wondering what this is Essentia water with, I like to drink this, True Lemon. It's good. I'm a big iced tea person, so I put a couple of these packs, these little packs, and I think I'm in this episode, I'm going back to my old days of highlighting my beverages, my sugar-free beverages. Remember, I used to, almost all my thumbnails, my first 3 years on YouTube used to be me holding up a beverage, usually a sugar-free beverage. Okay. I'll start here. I appreciate a lot of people who wrote me comments, publicly and privately, supporting my criticisms of the black women on their message board who were saying critical and disparaging things about my wife. Yeah, again, it just wasn't cool. I know people on the internet do shit like that. I'm not, naive to that. But as a few of my followers, subscribers, and supporters pointed out, it's very hypocritical. Now, again, as I said in my video yesterday, I don't want to make the mistake like a lot of black male YouTubers do of generalizing all black women. That's the one mistake I don't want to make. I don't want to make the mistake of invalidly generalizing all black women. Because as I mentioned, there were at least 2 black women in the discussion thread that came to my defense. When I was being criticized and disparaged, as well as my wife. But one thing a lot of my supporters pointed out was that it's hypocritical because you take Kevin Samuels. I'll bring him up again. Bless his soul. One of the things he was criticized for was saying hateful, negative, harshly critical, and disparaging things about black women. Which I don't 100% agree with. But yet, you had all these black women criticizing Kevin and other black male YouTubers who they feel unfairly attack black women, both their physical and non-physical characteristics. But yet you had 3 or 4 women in this discussion thread attacking my wife. Attacking my wife. That's hypocritical as hell. And again, at least a half a dozen of my followers, supporters, subscribers pointed that out. That's hypocritical, man. How you as a black woman gonna be voicing your opinion about black men dogging out black women, but here you are, black women dogging out another black woman that you've never met, which is my wife. Again, the biggest criticism, some woman tried to say that my wife must suffer from low self-esteem to marry a man twice her age. And let me segue right into that. Now, I did a whole video on this, so I don't want to totally rehash stuff I talked about. I did a video 2 years ago, roughly 2 years ago. And I talked about how, what have you noticed when it comes to what's known as May-December romances, May-December relationships, May-December marriages? There's an alternative term. Some people call them May to September romances. The more common term is May-December romances. Yeah, a May-December romance is any marriage or long-term relationship between two people that have a disparity in their age. Yeah, usually a disparity of at least 10 years. If you have a disparity of at least 10 years between you and your spouse or you and your long-term romantic companion, then that means you're involved in a May-December romance or May-December relationship or May-December marriage. So in my case, a marriage. I'm involved in a May-December marriage. My wife is almost to the day, 28 years younger than me. I was born on March 3rd of 1963, and my wife was born on March 2nd of 1991. Yeah, she's almost exactly 28 years younger than me. And a lot of people seem members of both genders. There's members of both genders. Not too many. I ain't gonna say a large percentage, more like a small percentage. There's a small percentage of both men on the internet who are familiar with my marriage that seem to have a problem with that. And there's a small percentage of women that seem to have a problem with that. And I've noticed that over the years. And again, I talked about this in a previous video 2 years ago. What have you noticed? If you notice, man, when there's a highly publicized couple that involves an older woman and a younger man, hardly anybody says shit. A few rare exceptions aside, hardly anybody says shit. Take Madonna, the singer Madonna. She's had a number of relationships with younger men. There's quite a few female celebrities. Gabrielle Union is 10 years older than Dwayne Wade, the former NBA player. Do you hear anybody criticizing them? I never hear anybody criticizing them. I never hear anybody talking about Madonna. When Demi Moore was with Ashton Kutcher, I didn't hear nobody say shit. I didn't hear nobody say shit. But anytime there was a relationship between an older man and a younger woman, people get ruffled. I mean, this has been happening before the days of social media or the internet. I'm talking about, like, when I was back in my 20s, I used to hear people offering critical comments whenever they ran across a couple where it was an older man and a younger woman. The main two people who tend to criticize it is younger men and older women. Younger men and older women tend to a large percentage of people from those two groups tend to very frequently criticize the idea of an older man being with a younger woman. Yep, a lot of younger guys tend to criticize May-December relationships and marriages that involve an older man and a younger woman, and a lot of old, middle-aged and older women. To a far lesser extent, you might sometimes hear from younger women. You might sometimes hear from older men. But that's usually very minimal. Again, the main two people who tend to criticize older men younger woman relationships are younger men and older women. My attitude is, hey, if I'm happy and my wife is happy, what's your fucking problem? That's my simple question. What's your fucking problem? Man, one thing about me, man, I don't criticize anyone's relationship or marriage if both people in the relationship or marriage appear to be happy. If both members in a marriage or a long-term relationship appear to be happy, I don't have shit to say about their relationship. That's why you notice, like, there's a lot of people on YouTube who do, celebrity gossip about certain married couples or relationship couples. Man, you never see me talking about this. If the couple involved, both members of the relationship or marriage seem happy, I don't talk about them. My attitude is, if they happy, I'm happy. The only time I've occasionally expressed commentary over a married couple or a couple in a long-term romantic relationship is if one of the two people basically seemed like they were, frustrated with the relationship or unhappy with the relationship, whether that's the husband, the wife, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, either one of the fiancés. If one of the two people seems like, in a very public way, seems like they're just generally unhappy, I might add some commentary and even some criticisms to that relationship or marriage. But if both the people seem happy, man, it's like, who am I to rain on their parade? And that's how I feel about my marriage, man. I'm happy with my wife. My wife is happy with me. But yeah, ever since we've been together, man, I've had people take pot shots, either on my end or on her end. Most recently, it was these women taking pot shots on her end. Again, saying that she made a mistake. She must... I would dispel 3 myths related to older men dating younger women. I think I did this on that last video where I tackled this subject. That I'm tired of people saying. There's at least 3 myths. I sometimes have problems pronouncing that. Myths. I have a hard time pronouncing the plural of that. Myths. That makes me sound like I got a lisp. Myth number 1. I've heard this on YouTube quite a bit. The only way an older man will be able to pull a woman much younger than him, like say 10 years younger than him, 15 years younger than him, 20 years or more younger than him, is if he either is a millionaire or on his way to becoming a millionaire. False. False. That's the number 1 myth I know, speaking for myself, I've destroyed. I'm not a millionaire. And as of right now, I wouldn't even say I'm close to being a millionaire. Now, I make, decent money. I make 6 figures. But I'm not a millionaire. And I still pulled a woman 28 years younger than me. And even, as I mentioned a number of times before, even before I met my wife. Let me see. Last time I dated a woman that was close to my age was the first half of 2010. So starting with the latter half of 2010, starting with, let's say, July of 2010 through June of 2019, which was right before me and my wife started getting hot and heavy, I'm evaluating from July of 2010 to June of 2019. What is that? Roughly 9 years? Man, I had casual sex with at least a dozen women that ranged anywhere from 22 to 35. That's right. In 2010, that would have been when I was 47. Yeah, 47. So from the age of 47 up until when me and my wife first really started truly connecting, was around July of 2019. What was I? 56. Yeah, 56. Okay, so yeah, starting with the age of 47 through the age of 56, I had casual sex with at least a dozen women that were anywhere from as young as 22. I told that story a few times on YouTube. Yeah. In 2017, when I was 54, I was in Orlando, Florida for the 21 convention. I had sex with a woman that was 22 years old. Didn't spend no money on her. Didn't spend no money on her. Pretty much all the women I had casual sex with that were between 22 and 35, I didn't spend no money on. There might be one exception. I spent a little bit after we fucked. Not before, but after we fucked. I spent some money on it. But other than one, out of the roughly 12 women I had sex with that were between 22 and 35, as far as going on this whole money thing, you got to be a rich millionaire to pull young women. There was only one of the 12 women that I spent some degree of money on, and it wasn't until after we fucked when I spent money on her. Before we fucked, I didn't spend shit on none of these women. I didn't spend shit on none of these women. So that's the first myth I will say is bullshit. Is the myth that you got to either be a millionaire. Like I've heard some of my own close friends and acquaintances have said this. That like I've had frat brothers that say, man, if you want to pull women that are like, say, 10, 15, 20 years younger than you, man, you got to be making a bare minimum about somewhere between $250,000 to $500,000 a year. You got to be making between $250,000 and $500,000 a year. I don't make $500,000 a year. I don't make $250,000 a year. And I still pull my wife, who's 28 years younger than me. So anyway, without going long on that digression, yeah, the money shit is bullshit, man. I'm not saying that there aren't I'm not saying that there aren't younger women who don't hook up with older men because of their financial resources and material possessions. I'm not saying that. I lived in Los Angeles. I saw it. See, now, speaking of geography, man, like a city like Los Angeles, man, May, December romances are all over the place. You're going to see that on literally a weekly basis, particularly in areas like Beverly Hills and the more affluent areas of LA County. Man, you going on no less than once a week, you going to see a guy who's in his 50s, 60s, or 70s with a woman who's in her 20s or early 30s. You're going to see that on a weekly basis in a city like Los Angeles. I'm sure other major cities like New York City, Manhattan, Miami, north side of Chicago. You're going to see that in a lot of major cities, man. That ain't nothing unusual. In major metropolitan cities, that shit's not unusual. But yeah, so there are some young women who do hook up with older guys primarily, if not exclusively, because of their man's financial resources and material possessions. But here's the reality. A lot of women who are materialistic gold digger types, they don't limit their gold digging to older men. I pointed that out on one or two videos before. Most women who are legitimate gold diggers, they do not limit themselves to older men with money. When they're looking to hook up with a man their own age, they're looking to hook up with a man with money. I give you a case in point. I got to bring her up again. You know, I brought this woman up more than any other individual woman on my videos. The infamous Sharon, not her real name. Sharon was one of the most gold-digging women I've probably ever messed around with. Yeah, if I evaluate women I messed around with that made it almost openly acknowledged that they were gold diggers, Sharon would be in that category. Sharon only dated men who were like millionaires, on the verge of being millionaires, that type of thing. Again, I was one of only two of her exceptions. I wasn't even making six figures when I was fucking around with her. Because I had a badass mouthpiece and a boatload of confidence. But yeah, most gold diggers, the vast majority of gold diggers, they never exclusively limit their gold digging to older men. Most women I've known since I was in my early 20s up until now who were gold diggers, they were gold diggers with older men. They were gold diggers with men close to their own age. They were gold diggers with younger men. They were just gold diggers with any man. It wasn't just specifically older men. They were gold diggers with any man. So I haven't, to be truthful, in my life, I haven't met too many women who were only gold diggers with older men, but with, say, men their own age, they didn't care about money or material possessions at all. I've rarely met a woman like that. Honestly, I've rarely met a woman like that. I would say, if I had to estimate, I would say probably 95% of the women I've met that were gold diggers, they were gold diggers with men of all ages. It wasn't just exclusively men who were 10 years older than them, 20 years older than them, 30 years older than them. They were men, they were gold diggers, they were materialistic with all the men they fucked around with. So anyway, that's myth number one, the money issue. Number two, this I have to, I hope my brother don't get mad at me. I'm going to have to include my brother on the second category. The second most thing I've heard from men, including men who were close friends of mine, fraternity brothers, and again, even my own older brother, was that if you want to pull younger women, you got to have an exceptionally slim, lean, athletic physique. Slim, lean, athletic physique. Again, my own older brother once told me that in a half serious, half lighthearted manner. I think it was back in around 2007. Because when I'll tell you, when I first started telling guys, starting with, again, the latter half of 2010 and the early part of 2011, that's when I first would tell all my friends, frat brothers, and my brother and whoever else, I would say, the next woman you see me in a serious relationship with, not just a casual relationship, but a serious relationship, I said, I guarantee you it's going to be a woman that's 35 years of age or younger. I told guys that. Starting with the latter half of 2010, I told guys that. I said, the next woman you see me in a long-term romantic relationship with is going to be a woman that's 35 years or younger. And for me, that had more to do with fertility issues than beauty and sex appeal related issues. Like, a lot of people think if you're an older man, you want to hook up with younger women, it's strictly because you think younger women are more beautiful, have more feminine sex appeal. No, in my case, it was because I knew I wanted children. That's my only reason for ever wanting to be in a long-term relationship, is so I can have children. I've often said, man, I would have never got married just for like female companionship only. I would say 99.9% chance I would have never got married just for female companionship only. I might have done cohabitation for female companionship only, but not marriage. Only reason, 90% of what motivated me to get married was to raise children. I wanted my son or daughter, and I ended up having a son. I wanted my son to be able to say when he got older that both his parents were married at the time of his birth. Now, for some people don't care about shit like that. And I respect that. If you don't care about that, more power to you. I care about that. That was important to me. That was very, 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 very important to me. I wanted my son to be in a position where when he becomes a teenager or a young adult, he can say that both his parents were married at the time he was born. We weren't married at the time he was conceived, but we were married at the time he was born, which is the most important thing. Because you know how some kids are cruel. I mean, let's keep it real and let's keep it blunt. See, when you're born to unmarried parents, one of the things you often be called, I don't know about this younger generation. I know when I was young, people call you a bastard. And technically that is what you are. It's a very disparaging term, but that's the most frequently used term for a child that's born to unmarried parents. They call that child a bastard. You're considered a bastard child. I didn't want my son to be called a bastard. I saw guys, when I was young, used to get in fights over that shit. Somebody would call them a bastard. Next thing you know, the dude who was called a bastard was still on the person in his jaw or something like that, and it was on like popcorn. Yeah, so that was important to me. Anyway, the second myth had to do with physique. Looks in general, more specifically physique. Again, my own older brother, he said it kind of half serious, half lighthearted manner. I remember he told me one time, he said, bro, if it's your objective to hook up with a woman much younger than you, boy, you got to stay in the gym. You got to have like a six-pack. You got to have the type of physique you had in your 20s and 30s. Well, I didn't. When I put my wife, y'all know my weight issues. Some of y'all have seen it firsthand here on YouTube. Like, I'll give you an example on YouTube. Do you know I've had as much as this is going to blow some people's minds. I've had as much as a 61-pound swing since I've been on YouTube. I got on YouTube in April of 2017. April 2017. Since I've been on YouTube, my heaviest weight was in August and early to mid-September of last year, 2021. I was as heavy as 268. Go back and look at my videos from August and early to mid-September last year. You'll see it just in the face. Oh, I was fat as fuck. That was my heaviest weight ever. Yeah, I was as heavy as 268. My lowest weight since I've been on YouTube was 207, which again is a 61-pound swing. Yeah. My lowest weight was in late December of 2018. Remember when I went on my first cruise in Christmas of 2018? That was actually my lowest weight since I've been on YouTube. Yeah, I was as slim as 207. Right now, I'm about 227. Yeah, right now I'm about 227. So I'm about 40 pounds lighter than I was in August and September of last year, and I'm about 20 pounds heavier than I was in late December of 2018. So anyway, that's the second thing I heard from a number of people. Next to you got to be a millionaire or close to being a millionaire to pull young women. Number two, you got to be in exceptionally good shape. Now, again, generally, I would say that there is validity to that. I'm not going to say that's an invalid assertion. For a lot of men, if you don't have money, the next thing you got to have to pull younger women is you got to have a really nice-looking physique. Just really be good-looking, period. Well-groomed, dress well, that type of thing. But yeah, so I wouldn't say that's an invalid assertion. It's just that it was invalid with me. When I first hooked up with my now wife, I was 235. I was actually heavier than I am now. I was about 8 pounds heavier than I am now when I first hooked up with my wife. Yeah, I first hooked up with we started talking on the phone in March of 2019, but we didn't really start getting what I would call hot and heavy until July of 2019. In July of 2019, when I first hooked up with my wife, I was 235. Yep, I'm 5'11". I was 5'11" and 235 pounds. The third myth. A lot of people, I don't know why people assume this, particularly women more so than men. A lot of women always assume that if there's a relationship between an older man and a younger woman, that it was the man, the older man, who was the aggressor or the initiator, the one who made the first move and pursued the younger woman. That's false. Now, I've pointed that out a few times. As everybody knows about my backstory of my wife made the first move on me. I didn't make the first move on her. You could say she was mode one with me back in early 2019. Yeah, she came to me. She started off, I'm not going to get into all the details, but as most people know, how we started off, she was actually a client of mine. She was a dating, because I do, contrary to popular belief, I do work with a small percentage of women from time to time. I'm primarily a men's dating coach, but I've also worked with women. I've worked with married and unmarried couples. So in addition to working in just single heterosexual men, yeah, I've worked with single heterosexual and bisexual women, and I've worked with married and unmarried couples. And so, yeah, that's how we got started. She was a client of mine. Nah, she was paying yours truly. She was paying for my dating coaching services. And then it kind of transitioned into us dating. But yeah, a lot of the women, like when I was talking about before I met my wife, I messed around with roughly a dozen women that were younger than me. I would say at least half of those women, they made the first move on me. I would say at least 40 to 50% of the younger women, I would say of all the women in my life that I've dealt with that were a minimum of 10 years younger than me, I say a minimum of 10 years younger than me, I would say 40 to 50% of those women made the first move on me. I did not make the first move on them. I made the first move on me. So that's a myth that when you have an older man hooking up with a younger woman, that it's always the older man who's the aggressor, the initiator, or the one who made the first move. No, that's false. Matter of fact, I would say that's very false. Man, I know from my high school days. A lot of younger women are fascinated with older men. Matter of fact, somebody just wrote that in my comment section. I think from my last video, somebody said that when he was in high school, he said a lot of his fellow female classmates, when they were like 15, 16, 17, used to be hooking up with guys in their late 20s, mid to late 20s. Same here. When I was in high school, man, I had at least a handful of female classmates that when they were 15, 16, 17 years old, they were messing around with guys that were like between 25 and 34. Yep. I ain't even joking, which of course technically was statutory rape, but they would still do it. And they were the ones who were the aggressors. They weren't the guys. Like I had this one classmate, let's call her Michelle, not her real name. I had a classmate named Michelle who was like that. She wouldn't give the time of day to any guy that was at our high school. She would treat all the guys that were her own age like, you're too immature for me. I would never give you any pussy. That was her attitude. And one day, man, I talked about it. She basically said, I look at guys my own age as being boys, immature boys. They are not men to me. They're immature boys. And she regularly used to hook up when she was like a sophomore. Well, I would say start with, believe it or not, the 8th grade. Starting when she was in the 8th grade, she was messing around with a guy that was like 19 or 20. And she was like 14. Yeah, when she was 14, she was messing around with a couple guys that was like 19, 20. Then when she got into high school, she was messing around with guys that were like between roughly 25 and 29. And I think she messed around before she graduated. She messed around with at least one guy that was over 30. Yeah, I interviewed a woman on my show, The Erotic Conversationalist, who admitted, Caucasian woman, can't remember her name. She admitted when she said when she was a teenager, she used to aggressively go after older men. Yeah, she actually admitted during the interview, which raised some eyebrows from some of my female listeners. She let her boss, when she was 16, had a job where she had a boss who was 30 years old, and she admitted that she let the boss fuck her when she was 16, which was, again, technically statutory rape. Yeah, she let her 30-year-old boss fuck her when she was 16. And she said that she was the aggressor. Yeah, she was the aggressor. So anyway, again, on that third myth that the older man is always the initiator or the aggressor, that's 100% bullshit. I'm telling you, man, I've had my share of younger women throw pussy at me. I've had my share of younger women throw pussy at me. Women who were a minimum of 10 years younger than me. And don't even get me started with phone sex. Physical sex is one thing. Don't even get me started with phone sex. Shit, I've had women younger than me pay me for phone sex. Real talk. I've had women definitely, I'm talking about like hundreds of women. I've had hundreds of women who were a minimum of 10 years younger than me that paid me for phone sex. Huh? Shoot. So anyway, that's my commentary on the whole May-December romance. But again, my main point was, yeah, man, I had 2 points to recap this discussion. Number one, if somebody's involved in a May-December romance, relationship, marriage, and they both are happy about it, and neither one of them complaining about it, why are you complaining about it? Why are you complaining about it? Like I had a woman, somebody said something to the effect, Alan, I don't think you should have had a son with a woman that young because you might die before your son's 21st birthday. I don't think you should have had a son with a woman that young because you might die, given your age, you might die before your son's 21st birthday. Insert dog face here. Is that a possibility? Sure it is. Sure it is. I hope God blesses me with a number. I hope God blesses me to see my son's 18th birthday and 21st birthday at minimum. And it definitely would break my heart if I'm not able to be here on earth for my son's 18th or 21st birthday, 25th birthday. But here's the thing, though. You know how many male friends and acquaintances and frat brothers that I know who lost their father when their father was in his 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. A son, it's possible a son could lose their father at any age because of if their father served in the armed services, dies in combat, unexpected car accident, some kind of disease like cancer. Matter of fact, I got a cousin who passed away in 1987 named Bruce. And sadly, his oldest son got murdered in Atlanta. And I'm Facebook friends with his baby boy. Bruce's two sons lost their father when he was in 1987, when he was what? In 1987, I was 24. He was 32. Bruce was 32 when he passed away. My cousin, my father's youngest sister's son. He was 32, man, when he died. And he had two sons that were young. One was like, I think, 8 years old, and the other was 6 years old when he died. He was 32, man. Anyway, without getting a long digression, man, you could lose your father at any age. Not just, 60 years of age or older. Now, I will say, when you're 60 years of age or older, that's when you're probably more likely to die of what's known as, referred to as natural causes, as opposed to, like, say, a car accident or, getting shot or something like that. But still, man, when you're a man in your mid to late 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s, you can still die before one of your children reaches the age of 18, 21, or 25. Particularly if you're black. End of story. Okay, now, let me move on. Some of you guys, man, I mentioned this on at least 2 videos earlier this year, so this will be at least my 3rd time mentioning this. Why do you men I'm going to preface my comments by saying, if you're a long-time follower of mine, long-time subscriber of mine, long-time supporter of mine, and you've always supported me and looked to absorb a lot of my knowledge, wisdom, and insight, I'm not talking to you, and I think you already know that. I'm not talking to you. So when I have my angry rants and admonishments, I'm not talking to the guys who supported me for years. I'm talking to people who fall in the category of either my haters and critics, skeptics and doubters, or in occasionally case, even some contrarian supporters. But here's what really just irritates me, man, is when people keep throwing these strawman arguments at me. I've gotten that ever since this ain't even specifically a YouTube thing. This is ever since I've been a book author and dating coach. Ever since I've been a book author and dating coach, I've had a lot of people throw straw man arguments. Now, 99% of people listening to me right now know what a straw man argument is. But for that 1% of people who might be, 18, 19, 20 years old, not just familiar with that term, a straw man argument is when, in simple terms, is when you're offering a counter argument, disagreement, rebuttal, or response to an assertion or argument that was never made in the first place. That was never made in the first place. As you see on the screen, my example is, if you were to say, not all single gay men and lesbian women are highly promiscuous, when no one ever suggested that they were in the first place. That would be a simple example of a straw man argument. And I've gotten a number of them, man. Ever since I became a book author and dating coach, I've had a number of people present me with straw man arguments. And I'm going to go through my list of what I would call my top 5. I've had multiple straw man arguments presented to me, but these will be my top 5. My top 5. I'll start with number 5 and move up to number 1. The 5th most straw man argument I get from a lot of men: Alan, you don't always have to make the first move to get women in bed. Many times, women will make the first move on men and let the man know that she's down to fuck. Didn't I just talk about that when I was talking about me and my wife and me and younger women? I was saying how a lot of people assumed that every younger woman I messed around with, that I made the first move, when the reality is, of all the women I messed around with that were a minimum of 10 years younger than me, I would estimate that 40 to 50% of them made the first move on me. I've never said that you can't get laid. I actually have a term for when women make the first move on a man. I call that mode 0. Mode 0. That's what I call a mode 0 situation. If you know, I'm not going to rehash the glory days of my senior in high school. But whenever I've talked about my senior in high school, I always highlight that. Do you know pretty much 19 out of every 20 women I had sex with my senior in high school, they made the first move on me. I hardly ever made the first move on a woman when I was a senior in high school. Pretty much all my pussy, my senior in high school, was the result of what's generally known as looks game. Looks game. When you get pussy based on a combination of your looks, your level of physical attractiveness, your masculine sex appeal, your demeanor and disposition. That's looks game and sex appeal game. That's how I got like pretty much all my pussy my senior in high school. All the pussy I got my senior in high school was from looks game / sex appeal game. With women making the first move on me, they were mode 0 experiences. Yeah, I would say 95% of women I had casual sex with my senior in high school, it was a mode 0 situation. So, bottom line, I never argued against that. But yet, from time to time, I have guys say that. They'll be like, "Hell, man, I disagree with it that you have to cold approach women to get them in bed and just generally make the first move, man. You know, sometimes, like, you can just sit back and women will come to you." When have I ever said different? I've never said that a man absolutely has to make the first move on a woman. I've never said that. So, now, moving up to strawman argument number 4. Strawman argument number 4. Alan, man, you can get laid with women despite being a liar or a disingenuous and misleading manipulator. I've done it, and I've had male friends who've done it. You want a hero cookie? Give me your address, I'll send you a fucking hero cookie. I mean, really, I'll send you a hero cookie. When have I ever said otherwise? When have I ever said that it is impossible to get laid as a result of using dishonesty, being a blatant liar, being a disingenuous and misleading manipulator? When have I ever said you couldn't get laid? I think it's unethical as hell to get laid. That's always been my criticism about getting laid while being a liar or a disingenuous and misleading manipulator or a cheater or an adulterer. I've always said that getting laid being one of those 4 things is unethical, but I ain't never said it was ineffective. I ain't never said you can't get laid being a liar, a manipulator, a cheater, or an adulterer. I ain't never said that. Only an idiot would try to suggest you can't get laid. I've just always maintained that it's unethical as fuck. And I don't respect guys who operate that way. Plain and simply, because I have higher ethics than that. I always say, man, I'm an ethical womanizer, or at least before I get married. I was an ethical womanizer. I didn't believe in getting pussy by being either a liar, a disingenuous and misleading manipulator, a cheater, or an adulterer. I've never believed in getting pussy that way. I never believed. That's a personal thing for me, personal ethics issue. But I ain't never said that you can't get laid that way. So I don't know why people keep presenting that straw man argument to me. I'd say not too many, but I'd say on average, I have at least 5 to 10 guys per year who present that straw man argument to me. Anyway, moving up to straw man argument number 3. Alan, man, you could get laid with, I got this a lot in just the last 24 hours. Number 2 and number 3. Number 3, Alan, you could get laid with women by using nonverbal subcommunication and strategic physical touching of a woman's body. And you can almost say that number 2 and number 3 almost go together. I would almost combine those as one straw man argument. A lot of guys, particularly in just the last 24 hours, I've had a lot of guys write me both publicly and privately is saying, Alan, you don't have to verbalize your sexual desires, interests, and intentions to women. And along with that, they'll say you can get laid by using non-verbal sub-communication and strategic physical touching of a woman's body. Number one, when have I ever said that you can't get laid through non-verbal and or strictly physical means? When have I ever said that you can't get laid through non-verbal and or strictly physical means? I've never said that. If you find an audio clip or video clip of me saying that, I'll pay you $5,000 a day. Real talk, real talk. If you can find an audio clip or video clip of me saying that it's impossible to get laid using non-verbal and or strictly physical means, I'll pay you $5,000 to make up for me bitch slapping you. I'll pay you $5,000 to make up for me, figuratively speaking, bitch slapping you. I ain't never said that. And while I'm on that point, I had a guy try to debate me, man, within the last 24 hours. And this relates to that video I did just about 2 weeks ago called Being Verbally Bold versus Being Physically Bold. I made the assertion in my very last video yesterday that there's no such thing as direct, non-verbal / physical game. And I had a couple guys try to debate me. I was like, Alan, that's not true. There very much is such a thing as direct nonverbal game or direct physical game. And then he goes on to say he was at a nightclub and he just went up to a woman and grabbed her ass. And I want to assume he eventually slept with the woman. I don't know if he clarified that, but let's assume he did. See, here's what, I'm a pedantic motherfucker. That's one of my nicknames, Mr. Pedantic. I hate when people use terms inappropriately and invalidly. See, here's what you need to understand. Let AlanRogerCurrie break some shit down to you because I'm more educated than you are. I'm more knowledgeable than you are, and I'm about to prove it to you. Yeah, I'm talking shit. Because you irritated me, I'm talking shit. Being bold and being direct are not the same thing. Being bold and being direct are not the same thing. You can be physically bold with a woman, which, use an example that one of the guys used was going up to a woman and grab. That's not representative of being physically direct. That's representative of being physically bold. See, y'all confusing terms. Bold and direct are not the same thing. In blunt terms, it is virtually impossible to be non-verbally or physically direct